Turmoil and discontent continue to run rampant through the Bluegrass, especially the two main teams that we have here to focus on locally. Both Louisville and Kentucky have shown discontent with their head coaches. And I thought about for a second, where exactly do we rank the current coaches, especially in the Bluegrass and in the SEC, given the different changes that have happened in that conference? What's cooking? Welcome back into ESPN Louisville Plus. My name is Justin Soforo. If you don't know me already, you can follow me on Twitter at Justin Soforo. Before we do anything, though, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I'm going to ask you to smash that freaking like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon to stay notified for all of our latest videos. We're trying to keep up and trying to give you more and more content every single day here on this channel. We're going to try to bring it to you as consistently as humanly possible. First off, though, we're going to talk about the situation as it unwraps right now here locally. We look at it and we've said that a lot of the news stories here have been around the coaching staffs and honestly just discontent with the fan bases. Some people are not happy. Okay, we get it. Louisville fans are not happy with their coach. Louisville fans have a really, really bad coach who needs to move on and needs to be done and probably never needs to coach again at the head coaching level. That's out of the way. But there's also on the side of Kentucky fans, and they've talked about John Calipari and how has he really performed lately, or the lack thereof, of some of the results that are the expectations of BBN, and warranted or not, their unhappiness with the coach that they have. I've done videos talking about maybe you should be happy with what you have. I don't know, but I understand why people want to move on and want to try to get going with maybe somebody who can produce results a little bit more to what they're accustomed to in BBN country. But we need to get into this, and I want to actually look at where the current landscape is when it comes to the coaches in the SEC. One thing I can say about the SEC is as of late, they've really poured in the resources, thanks to obviously all the money that's flooding in, thanks to ESPN and their deal with the SEC and all that money that each and every single one of those teams gets. A lot of good coaches there, and the SEC has really, really, really done a good job of going in, getting the best coaching talent that they can possible. We're talking about 10, 15 years ago, it was a barren wasteland. When you look at the SEC, I never really wanted to watch games. It was always Kentucky and a bunch of bums. Like, if I'm being honest, like, that's why Kentucky always had in the preseason, you have all these good teams that they play, because you get to the SEC and you just run rampant through there. Maybe Florida can trip you up every once in a while, but otherwise it really was a big nothing burger for the fans, and really kind of unfortunate to try to watch. Now you've got good coaches with a lot of talent and a lot of ability. But what I want to talk about is which one of these coaches is the best coach right now when we talk about the SEC. It's funny, while doing a little bit of research just to try to help me, and let's be clear, this is opinion based. So you're going to come at me and tell me how stupid and how wrong I am, and that's fine. I probably am. But at the same time, this is all opinion based. I did some research to see what some other people had said in the past about who they thought the best coaches were. And a lot of these were rankings that were going into the preseason of this year. It's funny. It feels like Razorback country is pretty vocal. Razorback country is pretty loud. And there were a lot of votes and a lot of people touting the great Eric Musselman and about how he was the best coach in the league. I'm not going to give any hints of where I have it sitting, but just thought that was interesting given the way the season has played out so far, right? So anyway, let me know before we do this, pause the video. Just pause the video real quick, go down in the comment section, and if you're watching this, put your top 6 coaches. I'm going to do 6 coaches, right? Put your top 6 coaches in the league and then the SEC in order and see how they match up with mine. I'll respond, and maybe we can debate a little bit on why we agree or disagree on the findings. All right, let's get into it. Some names, I didn't do all of them because I don't have the time to go through, and we don't need to talk about it. And Buzz Williams is a fine coach. Buzz Williams is not on this list. All right, let's get into it. My number 6 choice when it comes to, and I don't have any music to play with this, but I probably could add it in post, but I probably won't. But number 6, the number 6 coach on my ranking list, who actually sits currently at the top of the SEC, none other than Rick Barnes of the Tennessee Volunteers. Let's be honest. he leaves his shirt on too much, right? Of all the coaches in this league, he's leaving his shirt on. No, that's that's not the real issue, but you'll see why I make that comment later. But of all the coaches, Rick Barnes is one of the guys who's been in the game the longest. He has a couple accomplishments. Obviously, he made the Final Four back in 2003. I was 13 years old, a long bleeping time ago. 20 years ago, 21 years ago now almost, since the last time he even sniffed the Final Four. Did a stint at Texas. I would say underwhelmed with Kevin Durant. And he bleeped the bed. He bleeped the bed with Kevin Durant and the talent that he had there. And then lately with Tennessee, you've seen a resurgence of Rick Barnes playing some good ball. You've seen Kentucky struggle against Rick Barnes during the regular season, but you know what you're going to get with Rick Barnes. You know what's going to happen at the end of the season. He's going to lay an egg. He's going to fall apart. And again, it's the carriage is going to turn into a pumpkin eventually. Rick Barnes cannot get it done, will not get it done. So that's why, for me, I'm putting him as my sixth best coach in the SEC. Still think he's a fine coach, but if you want to see the big success that you're wanting to see, expectations, again, level of Kentucky, Rick Barnes is not your guy for that. You know, he could play, I mean, he'd probably do a good role as a Vulture in Spider-Man. I think he would make a good Vulture if they were to go for an accurate appearance there. Moving on to my number 5 pick, and this is one that really has shifted over the years. It could have been much higher. It probably couldn't have been lower, but it could have been much higher, obviously, if you're talking maybe 365 days ago or so. So number 5 on my list of top coaches in the SEC is going to be none other than Bruce Pearl. And I love my guy, Bruce Pearl. And there he is shirtless. There you go. That's why, the shirtless comments are coming up. Bruce Pearl. There's a lot of guys in the SEC who love not wearing their shirt. I don't know if you noticed that. There's a lot of broskies out there who like not wearing their shirt. But one of the reasons Bruce Pearl finds himself at this point of the list is really just a handful of conference championships and only one Final Four. And his pretty long tenure make it hard for me to place him above some of the guys who are really starting to develop and come out as head coaches for their respective teams. Bruce Pearl obviously making the Final Four a couple years ago, but outside of that, that's more of an anomaly of how I think of Bruce Pearl. Is he a guy that can actually get you competing at the top level consistently at what Kentucky wants to try to compete for a national title? I don't know. I haven't seen that, and I have a hard time believing that in the late end of the years of his career that he's going to do it. So he's number 5. Great coach. Just don't think he is going to be to the level of some of the other guys we have here coming up. Speaking of shirtless gentlemen, for number 4 in my coach's hot list is none other than, of course, the shirtless wonder himself, Eric Musselman. And this is where I disagree with the Razorback faithful. I'm sure they probably have changed their opinions, as some of them kind of, I don't know how they've twisted. I don't know where they currently are right now, if they're trying to move him out or what they want to do with Eric Musselman. But I think right now, Eric Musselman still cannot be rated above the other guys ahead of him. His teams always seem to do really well and progress in the tournament. That's one of the things you can say about him. Last few seasons, he's made 2 Elite Eights and 1 Sweet 16 last season. This season doesn't appear that the Razorbacks are going to be making the postseason. And it doesn't, I mean, we'll see maybe a miraculous run in the SEC tournament. We'll save it, but I'm doubtful on that. Again, I can't, the reason I have a hard time rating Eric Musselman any higher than where a lot of people were on that must bus is if you can have a season like this, I have a hard time giving you the benefit of the doubt in the short time that he has been a high level head coach. John Calipari, I understand, did it with the 9-win season a couple years ago, but he has a long tenure of success. Same thing with any of the other older guys. It's just when something like this can crash and burn that quickly, it makes me nervous. Could he be another Chris Mack type, right? Let's move it on. Number 3 in my top 3 in the SEC is none other than Christopher Beard. I don't know if it's Christopher. I don't know. Chris Beard is one of the only coaches on this list to make it to a championship game So that's going to give him quite a bit of damn real estate to work with, right? Because it's hard. It's really hard to make it to a championship game. I personally think that Chris Beard is one of the best coaches and one of the best coaching minds in the game currently. I think, obviously, the last few years and the last few issues have stalled a lot of his progress, if you will. But I still think that he is one of those guys that's more than capable and probably has some of his best coaching days ahead of him. I've said for a long time now that I thought that Kentucky or Louisville are perfect landing spots for him. I really thought that the University of Kentucky, and I understand people will say that they don't think Mitch Barnhart would ever give him a chance. We'll see. Calipari happened eventually, right? I understand there's some infighting there. He's a big Stoops guy, and now maybe he's completely against Calipari. I get it. But I have a hard, but if you look at the options that are out there, for some reason Calipari retires, whatever, moves on, goes back to the NBA, not going to happen. But if he does, I think Chris Beard has to be one of the top 3 guys on that list. I think if you want a chance to make it back to the championship, he's a pretty damn good recruiter as well. I think Chris Beard is one of those guys to go. Again, another one, did not see any shirtless photos of Chris Beard. I couldn't even find one of him wearing a wife beater. Anyway, moving on to my number 2 pick. My number 2 pick for this overall is going to be none other. And I know you can probably see where I'm going with this by now, right? You can see where I'm going with this. And some of you probably will disagree with me. But number 2 is none other than the Oats boat, Nate Oats. And my God, look at this guy. Look at this guy. He's absolutely jacked. He's ready to go. He's out there. He's a military man, damn it. but I believe that Nate Oats, to me, there is a triumvirate to me of like the next best coaches in the league. And it's Nate Oats, Chris Beard, and probably, Scott Drew is not really the next best coaches because he's been in the game for a long time. But I think those are like 3 of the best options that you have out there. If you ever look to move on with another coach. Some things on Nate Oats. Obviously, he's won the SEC twice in the first 4 seasons with Alabama and is battling with Rick Barnes currently for his 3rd SEC conference championship. That's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good consistency and success overall, especially when you're looking at the SEC has been probably one of the best SECs that we've had in a long, long time. I like what I see from him. He's a damn good recruiter as well. He seems like a really pretty good leader. Not saying that a Christian thing matters, but he's a Christian. He's a good example, I guess, if you want to look at those, if you have those values, if you share the values that a lot of people in this area have. While yes, his team did get rocked by Calipari. It just happened. I understand they're getting their whatever waxed by 30. Let's remember he did do the same thing to John Vincent Calipari just a year or 2 ago as well with his Alabama squad. So it can be repaid and it can be taken, what can be given can be taken back. But I think Nate Oats is one of the best guys in the game, one of the best minds. And I think to me, he is one of the best investments you can have as a coach. So anyway, obviously that leads me to who I still have a hard time removing as the number 1 best coach in the SEC. And there he is, shirtless glory himself. It's a few years younger, but I found him with a shirtless pick. John Vincent Calipari, to me, is still the best coach in the league. It's hard to unseat the emperor. You really got to take down the emperor. I guess he's been taken down in the tournament. I guess he's been taken down, in the SEC. I guess he's been taken down during the regular season. But hear me out. I think John Calipari is a great coach. Maybe things have been a little bit rough as of late. He's still a damn good recruiter. When it comes to the Final Fours that he's made, the championship that he has won, it's hard for me to say that anybody is better than John Vincent Calipari. I know no Final Fours have occurred since 2015. And Rick, if you look at Rick Pitino, his idol, his hated idol, I guess, if you will, it took him a damn good while before he got back to that level of winning a title again. He had a little bit of a hiatus there during some tumultuous seasons, even with Louisville, ones where people, similarly to how people feel about John Calipari right now at Kentucky, were ready to push Rick Pitino out the door before he came back and won that title out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, but the Final Four the year before was out of nowhere. and then we were good to go rock and rolling with the title. So I would just say hold your horses with John Calipari. He's still the king of the SEC. And even as much as it hurts me to say, he's still the king of college basketball in the Bluegrass as well. That doesn't mean that pressure won't be on for him this season. He has to make some progress. He has to move forward, and he has to actually win in the postseason this year. He needs to win the SEC. He needs to get to an Elite Eight this year. Preference would be obviously for him to get to a Final Four or a championship, but with the team that you have laid out in front of you, it's going to be damn difficult, especially as we see I think the one thing to me, and Issel even talked about it when he came back on the radio this week, surprise appearance. He talked about inconsistency is the new consistency, which I mentioned in a video a couple of days ago as well. I think that is what you're getting with college basketball now. It's hard for coaches to work with that when inconsistency is so consistent. You don't know what this new young wave of talent and how they're going to play. They don't operate the same way. How can you get them to perform when they just don't view game to game the same way as they should? Maybe we need to work on that business mentality, whatever it is. Maybe John Calipari needs another guy to help him get that out of his guys, but I still think John Calipari is the best. I understand I've done a lot to talk myself out of him being the number one pick, but I still think John Calipari is the best coach in the SEC right now. Though I'd say definitely 2, 3, 4-ish of those guys are right on his trail and could be, given a couple more seasons, could leapfrog him down the line or could supplant him at the University of Kentucky. What do you guys think about my top 6 rating for the SEC coaches currently as it stands right now? Do you think John Calipari is still the emperor when it comes to the SEC? Or do you think that maybe somebody has already bested him and is on his way, maybe to the Bluegrass, either Louisville or Kentucky? You guys let me know in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, do me a solid favor, smash that freaking like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon to stay notified for all of our latest videos. I'll see you guys next time.